again and finally, David phoned me up for another album. And he said, let's get together and have a little chinwag, which is the first time I ever heard that word, chinwag. And he said, I said, okay, yeah, let's do that. I said, I'm absolutely amazed you want to make another album. He goes, yeah, I've written a few good songs I've been writing. He already recorded a song called Sue in A Season of Crime with the band leader, Maria Schneider, who's also a great arranger who studied with Stan Kenton. I mean, she was big time. And both Bowie and I were Stan Kenton fans, who's a avant-garde jazz arranger from the 1950s. Anyway, so we had this great recording of Sue, and I thought, okay, that was it. The fans, again, couldn't figure out what this was all about. It was so bizarre for him. But he always loved big band music, and he wanted to make a big band record. So this was a brand new world opening up for both David and myself. And he always said he wanted to make a jazz album, but our dilemma was like, all his musicians were rock musicians who were very good, excellent players, and probably had some jazz in them. But we realized that they would only be kind of they'd be rock musicians attempting to play like jazz, real jazz. With Donny McCaslin, whom we met and I saw live and all that, we knew that we had real jazz musicians who could actually imitate rock musicians better than rock musicians could imitate jazz musicians. So this is another big departure in a backing band. And oh my God, they were the most amazing people to work with.
So you said you wanted writ, Sue the Virgin on your stone for your grave. Why too dark to speak the words? For I know that you have a son.
We talked about the nature of the album, how we were going to use Donny's band exclusively, no rock and roll musicians. It was going to be a jazz album, but you know, they knew if they had to play rock, he says, I'm sure Donny could play anything. Donny and the band could play anything. And that's exactly what happened. And unlike when you make a rock album, they usually spend maybe a day on a song. You sometimes could spend 3 days on one song. You're getting it right. You know, it's just a different way of working. But Donny and the band, you know, they're used to playing jazz gigs. They just play a song, which is complicated as hell. Then they play another song, which is complicated as hell. And like their brains are in a different space than a rock musician. I'm not saying they're smarter. It's just a very, very different mindset. And we all know that David played baritone sax over the years. He always, in his heart of hearts, wished he could be a better jazz musician.
I can't give everything.
So now he writes this album, and we get Donny and his band, and we go in the studio, and on the very first day, we're all ready to go, and Donny's in. We put Donny in a vocal booth because we wanted his live sax to be recorded without leakage into the drums and all that. Band sets up, they play take one of the first song, and they just stop and play, and I go, well, that was great, and I assume we're going to do more takes, at least three, you know, but it was perfect. It was perfect. And they're standing there, and David and I look at each other, well, what happens? He goes, well, Donny, you want to do another take? He goes, no, what's next? What's the next song? never recorded 2 songs in one day. We ended up recording 3 songs in that one day. And then Donnie stayed behind and overdubbed a few more sax parts. Like he would play a basic part live, and then he would add some harmonies to it. And he was no slouch. I mean, he was a genius. He just played so well. And everybody in the band had to do a few little overdubs and cleanups and things like that. But the album, the backing tracks were recorded, I don't know, maybe, my memory's not too well, but probably in the space of no more than a week. We had it down there. And if we needed more Donnie, he would come back in and play some more parts, or Jason on keyboards if we needed extra keyboards. Mark Juliana was probably the greatest drummer I've ever worked with in my life. If you listen to the drumming on that album, it's like nothing you've ever heard before. But it's just, and I'm thinking it's just wonderful that when jazz musicians play rock, they play it respectively, and they give you all the flavors they can. And you could tell them whether you like something or not. They had no big egos, But it was just a dream album. And when we got down to doing the vocal overdubs and all that, it was just David and myself, and maybe someone else in the studio.
I'm a black star, way off my money, I've got game. I see right so wide, so open heart, it's plain. I want eagles in my daydreams, diamonds in my eyes. I'm a black star, I'm a black star. Something happened on the day he died.
We mixed the album almost completely. I think we did mix it completely in my little studio. And I wasn't making David happy, I'll tell the truth. And because this was such an unusual album, Blackstar was very, very different from anything. I'm working with elements that were unusual. I remember talking about using Electric Lady to mix it. We thought maybe the studio was the problem, like my little studio couldn't handle it. Because I was working, by that time, I'm working what we call nowadays is in the box. I didn't have a big console with faders, I wasn't working in a conventional studio anymore. And nowadays, almost everyone works in the box, So this was Blackstar was in the box. He felt that we should think about putting it out on faders and doing a proper analog mix. And I said, okay, well, I'll do it. So we go to Electric Lady, we book a room, and they put us in this very small room, and I'm looking, I said, they had a mixing board this big. I go, this is crap, this studio is terrible. And he walks in, he goes, this is awful, this studio. I didn't mean this studio. I go, well, you said the studio upstairs, and we told him that, and we're upstairs. And he goes, no, there's a studio up here, there's another studio up here. We opened he goes, I think it might be in this next room. We open the door, and there's this massive control room owned by a British guy called Tom Elmhurst. And he sees us, and his face lights up, and he says, this is the room. Let's mix in here. And he wanted me to mix in there. And I go, all right, it's been a long time since I've been on this kind of board. I can do it. But Tom wasn't going to have it. He goes, no, I'm the only one who uses this room. I will be the mixing engineer. Tom had a studio that had, these preamplifiers and all kinds of special, real live, outboard gear from the floor up to the ceiling. I mean, he had everything you could imagine, every dream piece of equipment you could imagine, things you can't even buy anymore for any money in that studio. And he had a special method of mixing. So David said, would you mind if Tom mix? I go, well, obviously. I mean, I wouldn't know where to begin in the studio, where I could plug things in. I would need 2 engineers to work with me. It took about 10 or 12 days, maybe over 2 weeks, for Tom to mix the whole album, and it was sounding amazing. We really did love it, And I loved working with Tom. He was a good guy. A little jealousy at first, obviously. I felt a little put out by it, but I had to be there. I know where all the things were, and I would give Tom advice what he should be. he's boosting the wrong things. You know, this was just meant to be a little flavor. This is what you should put up. But we got it done, and it is one of the best Bowie albums ever, Blackstar. It really is. And it took a big team to do it. It was just not him and me anymore.
Look up here, I'm in heaven. I've got scars that can't be seen. I've got drama, can't be stolen. Everybody knows me now.
I'm so happy his last album was amongst one of his greatest. You know, he didn't go out like a has-been. He went out like a legend, like a god. And I want people to think of him like that.
Look up here, man.